Hello, Minecraft players, soon-to-be server owners, Minecraft server owners, anything server owners, dedicated machine owners slash YouTube viewers. We're gonna be doing a Minecraft video tutorial on how to start a Minecraft server, how to let other people join that server, and how to port forward, and all that stuff you need to get, all that stuff you need to know how to start a Minecraft server, and have other people be able to join it. So let's start off right off quickly here with the requirements. You're going to need a computer or a dedicated machine. Now I say dedicated machine because I have a server that I use to take the load off my computer, which is a dedicated server. And you need an internet connection, which is kind of given as you need to download the game off of the internet. Some optional things you can have are a static IP from your internet service provider, and a domain name, which I'll get into a bit later on in this tutorial. Now, I'm going to be doing my video kind of half on my server and half on my computer. So it's going to be a little bit laggy on my server as it takes time to access it. But first things first, let's start off by downloading the Minecraft server onto my server. So I use the service called LogMeIn. It's a completely free service. You can connect any computer to to locally host it using, or to I should say externally host it, or externally access it, or just wherever you are with an internet connection you can access your server. And if this thing will log in at all, come on. Doesn't like me today. Just log in. There we go. And I need to access the server. And let's type in our credentials here. So let's start off by just downloading the Minecraft server. So we can close my current server. And let's clean up our desktop here. So what you need to do, go to any internet provider you probably, or not internet provider, any browser, you probably already know that, minecraft.net/download.jsp. I'll have all of these links in the information bar below. So there's your Minecraft executable file. You don't need that. We don't have a Mac here. Linux/other, we don't have that. So right here, multiplayer beta server software. So this is what you want to download. I'll show you how to do the exe, and probably in a later video I'll show you how to do the jar file. So let's download this and save it to our desktop. Save file to desktop, save. Done, just like that, and we can close our browser. Now, here's our server. Now, you can start it and launch it from your desktop, but I suggest you put it in a folder, as it creates like 9 or 10 files that it's going to clutter up your desktop, and it's going to get really confusing. So I'm just going to name this Minecraft server tutorial. And I'm just going to move that server into that folder, so it's right here. Now, before you start it, before anything, we're going to have to do some stuff to your internet. A little bit scary, yeah, I know, but you just gotta deal with it. So we're gonna do this in Windows 7, as I have Windows 7. So on your server or on the machine you're using to do this, you need to go to your adapter settings. Now, I just did that by clicking Open Network and Sharing Center, and then change adapter settings. Keep in mind this is Windows 7, and it should be compatible with Vista. With XP, you can probably look this up on the internet. You want to use your enabled or used network adapter. So in this case, it's my wired local area connection. You want to right click it and hit status first. So let's move this box to somewhere we can see, and then hit details right underneath the speed. You need to hit details so you can bring up all of your information you need for use, what we're going to do right now. So right click on your network adapter again, and this time hit properties. And then you'll find another box, and you're gonna have to find Internet Protocol version 4 TCP/IPv4. This is what Minecraft uses to look on the internet. This is what the majority of your internet comes from. Hit properties, and another box will appear with obtain an IP address automatically checked and everything else disabled. So you're anything you do here is completely roll backable, or can be rolled back. It's really easy to do if you screw something up. What you want to do is hit use the following IP address, and then everything will be enabled and you'll be able to modify all these values. So let me restart this. So in your IP address, you want to look over here for the value of your IPv4 address. Now you can keep the same, you can copy over what it has here, but you can always change it. Just make sure it doesn't conflict with any other machine. So I'm just going to leave it what it is, an IP address right now, 192.168.1.20. Now keep in mind, you're going to have to keep the same the first three boxes. So the first three, 192.168.1, you have to keep the same. It may differ on your router, so it may be like 16 something. I forget the other routers are. It may be something else for the first three, but you must keep those the same, and then your identifiers, what you can change or keep the same depending. Now you click on your subnet mask, and that should be filled in automatically. If it's not, just copy over what's over here on your status. In this case, mine's 255.255.2550. Your default gateway, you want to copy over from your IPv4 default gateway, which is, for mine, it's 192.168. If I can type that in, 168.1.1. And then the following DNS servers, you want to just copy over from your status. Your first and second one are here, preferred and alternative, respectively, from the top and bottom. And then you want to hit OK. Now, if you screwed something up and your server or your machine cannot access the internet anymore, just go back to your IPv4, go to properties, and hit obtain IP address automatically, and obtain DNS server address automatically, which should be enabled after you click obtain an IP address automatically. And then you'll be on the internet in, I'd say, 20 seconds with everything back to normal. So don't panic if something screws up. If you do have a problem, you can always drop me a comment or drop me a message, and I'll try to get to you as fast as I can. So after you've successfully set your IP address, you now have a static IP, which means that this IP will never change because you're telling it always connect with this IP address. Then you can close all of your boxes, and you need to make sure you write down or memorize your IP address. Your IPv4 address, your local one, 192.168.1.20 is mine, so I'll keep that in my mind, and I can close all these. And now what you can do is you can start up your server, and you can uncheck this always ask before opening this file, and hit run. That'll bring up your Minecraft server, and it'll say failed to load or failed whatever, and it will create those files for you, and I'll go through these files one by one after this is loading. So what it will do is it will create a level called world, and it'll just create it, so it's preparing the spawn world. It takes a little bit sometimes, so just waiting, and then after it's done, it'll tell you how long it took in nanoseconds. And then this is your console. Basically, it's your interaction server side, so you can type your help, and it'll give you all the commands you can do through the server. Now let's go through these. You've got in the file or folder, whatever, your desktop or wherever you placed your server when you run it, it'll create these files. It'll create your world, which is named world, your band IP and your band players lists, which you can modify, your OPs, operators or admins, whichever you prefer, your server log and a server log.lck, which is its temporary writing file, just don't bother with those, and your server properties and your whitelist. I'll get into more detail right now. Your server.properties, you're going to have to right click and open with a preferred text editor. I prefer Notepad++ if you have it, but I don't have it installed on this machine, so I just install it or just open it using Notepad, and it'll bring up some of these it'll bring up your server CVARs, or server variables. Your level name should be defaulted at world, but you can change this. Now this has to correspond with the level you want to load, or if there's no level, it will create a folder with that name. Now I don't believe you're able to add spaces, but I'm not sure about that. So if you are, you are, but I'm not saying yes or no on that. But if you load a world, or if you want to add a world, just add it to the same folder as your Minecraft server, and make sure your level name is equal to that folder name. Hell world is your nether world, false is off, so it's a normal world, and true if you want to have that world as a nether. Spawn monsters, this is kind of like your level setting. True if you want to spawn your monsters and mobs, and false if you don't. Online mode, now this you have to set to true so that other people can connect to your server. Spawn animals, true or false as well. That will spawn, your sheep, your pig, etc. Max players. Now, max players you want to leave at your default 20 or 16, or whatever, number you find sufficient. But keep in mind, the more maximum players you're allowed to have on your server, the more resource heavy the server will get. So you need to have adequate RAM, adequate CPU speeds, and adequate disk writing speeds to be able to host more than 20 or as many players as you want. Now I don't know what the suggested RAM and CPU speeds are, but you can probably look that up online. I'll probably have that information down, or a link to it in the information box. So I just keep it at the default 20 or 16. Your server IP you can leave blank because it's hosting off your current local host, which is your computer. PvP, of course, this explains itself. Player versus player, true or false. Level seed. Now, level seed is if it has to create a world, it will use the seed you provide here. Otherwise, if you don't provide the seed, it'll provide a random one. It'll create a random one and use that. Your server port, now you want to leave this at 25565, and I'll explain why later. You can change that, but I will explain that a little bit later. That's for more advanced users, so just leave this at 25565. And your whitelist. Whitelist can be a little intimidating at first, but you can use your whitelist. You can set that either to true or false. If you set it to true, anybody on this whitelist, on this list right here, will be able to join your server. Now if you have it to false, anybody that tries to connect to your server will be able to get in. That of course if they're not on your banned list, so it'll always follow your banned rules. So after we're done messing with our properties here, we can close that. And now we can try connecting using your local IP, which handily, oh, never mind, it's not in there. Never mind. So now we need to type in the IP, the local IP. So this is my computer now. We can type that into multiplayer, and it's right here. 192.168.1.20 is mine, and I can connect to it. It's gonna log in, download terrain, and it should be good to go for your local. So now this is a fully working server, and you can connect to it. You can do whatever you want. Wow, it's already gravel, really? Anyways, do whatever you want in your... They're lagging a little bit, but hey, so you can build, destroy, whatever, set OP, whatnot. So that's that. Now we want to disconnect, and we want to continue on to port forwarding. Now, port forwarding can be a little bit tricky sometimes, as there is a lot of software, and a lot of people's routers are different, but I'll try to do my best, since I've seen many different routers trying to do the same thing. They're all about the same in their terms, but I'll tell you what to look for. So you want to connect to your router. Now your IP address for your router is different for each router, but doesn't have to be different for each router. Since I'm using a Linksys router, my default IP address is 192.168.1.1. Now you can find your default IP address by going back into your status and looking at your IPv4 default IP and all that, or you can look online, go to Google and look up what is my router IP, and then give the router name. So mine's the Linksys. So in Google, I would just look up Linksys default IP, and it'll give me that. And then it'll ask you for a login, and you can look that up as well, because you'll need it, of course. But you have to look that up. It should be something like default admin or root or whatever. Depends on your router. For Linksys, you leave the username blank and the password is default. That is, of course, if you don't change it. I have, but I'm already logged in anyways. So you don't, when you get to the screen, you don't want to mess with any of these settings, as it can screw up your internet, unless you know what you're doing. If you know what you're doing, go ahead. Go right ahead, because you know what you're doing. I can't tell you otherwise. You want to look for something that says applications and gaming, or port forwarding, or port range forwarding, or range port forwarding, anything to do with that says port and forwarding, or gaming, or anything to do with ports, really. Because that's where you need to set your port forwarding. So it'll bring you to a page that looks something like this. It shouldn't look exactly like this, as every router's different, but something like this. It'll give you like a name for that. It'll say your port, what you need your ports to forward, protocol, your IP address. It'll give you a whole bunch of options. But what you want to do, since I'm setting up a Minecraft server, you want to name your application something relevant, something so you'll know, but you can name it whatever you want, really. I'm just going to name it something relevant, Minecraft MC. Your start port, if you have a port range forward, it will ask you for 2 ports, a start port and an end port. Both of those need to be 25565. So start is 255 and end is 25565. If it only asks you for 1 port, just give it 1 port, 25565. That's all it needs. Your protocol should be both. If you don't have this option, then don't worry about it. And then your IP address, it's your local IP address. So for me, it was 20. And then hit enable if it's not checked already. And then hit save settings. So it'll connect to it'll say settings are successful, or your settings are successful, or whatnot, if it uses proper English. And now your port forwarding is set. Now what you want to get is your IP address, your external IP address, so other people can join. You can get that either going through status, or anything that says status, and looking at your IP address on your router. This is your external IP address that is unique to you, and no one else in the world has that IP address. So don't come stalking me. Or you could go to whatismyip.com, and it'll show you your IP address right up here. 967.170.100.97. And if you try to connect to my server, it'll say you're not on my whitelist, so don't even try. So with that, you can give this to your friend and they should be able to connect, but let's see if you can connect to your external IP. So go back to Minecraft and delete your local IP and paste in or type in your external IP and hit connect. And it should log you in, and it probably will be a little bit laggier. This is because when you type in an external IP, it goes out to the internet, looks for it, and it says, oh look, and it comes back to you because, well, that's where it is. So just bear that in mind. If you're at home, I would suggest you using your local IP. So now that you see you can connect, you can disconnect from your server. And congratulations, you set up a Minecraft server. That is it for the bare basics of a Minecraft server. But if you want to be more advanced, and you're a beginner, probably don't listen to me right now because you're not going to understand a lot of what I'm going to say. But this is for advanced people who know what they're doing or have experience with servers and or the internet. But if you want to listen, you always can. And what the heck, Peter Griffin, really? Alright, anyways. So this is the more advanced section. I'm going to first start off by talking about ports and multiple Minecraft servers on the same router. So ports are, well, what it says, ports. It's the area in which your router or whatever's trying to connect will harbor by. So your IP address is like the general location of where it needs to land, and your port is just like a ship. In this metaphor, it comes into like port 1 or port 2, whichever you set it as, from your IP. So ports can be a little bit tricky, because if you set it to a wrong port, then something will blow up and die. So first, if you want to change your Minecraft server port, you have to make sure it's an unused port. So that data will not conflict. As in, if you're trying to look for the internet, it'll try to give you like a Minecraft thing, and it'll be like, oh my god, what's happening? And then stuff will blow up and you'll die. No, that won't happen, but something like that to your computer will happen. So you want to make sure it's an unused port. I would recommend anywhere up in the thousands or near the Minecraft server, so like 255.60, 255.61, 62, 63, etc. So if you want to change a port, you need to close your Minecraft server and go to your properties and change your port there. So I'm going to go with 255.60 just so it's easy, so we can memorize that. So it's 255.60, keep that in your head. And now that we've changed the port, it's not on its native port anymore, so you're going to have to specify what port to use. So when you start the server, it'll say starting Minecraft on server 255 on port 255.60. And then when you connect to your server, you're going to have to connect using that port. 192.168.1.20 is the local IP address, and then you need a colon 255.60 connect, and it should log you in using that port. Now it makes no difference using another port. It's just easier if you use the native port, as you don't have to type in the port and memorize the port number as well as the IP address. So it's just easier on your life. But if you want to make multiple Minecraft servers, it's necessary to change the port. So that's how that works. So I'm going to change this back to 255.65. Save that. Close. And now I'm going to talk about domain names. Now, I'm not going to show you how to get a domain name, because that's private data and whatnot, and it requires a credit card. So domain name you have to pay for. To get a domain name, it's not that complicated, but I wouldn't suggest you doing it unless, you're hardcore and you're devoted to this and whatnot, because people are going to try to access your domain name in ways other than what you've set it up for. So I have my own domain name. It's called codelyshare.net, and I host a site on it as well. So this is what appears if you type this into your web browser. Now, if you want to control it using your Minecraft server, it's the exact same thing, only if you type it into Minecraft, since Minecraft uses the port 255.65, it'll connect your Minecraft, instead of port 80, which is what your web browser uses. Two completely different ports. As you can see, it's getting a little confusing if you don't know what I'm talking about. But if you have a domain name, you probably know what you're doing, so I'm not going to explain how to set up your DNS stuff, but I'll just leave it at that. So your domain name, what your domain name allows you to do is connect through Minecraft without a whole bunch of random numbers, but a nice and easy domain name. Oh, I can't connect. I need to change my server here because I'm using something else. And so it starts up my server, and I can connect using my domain name, codelyshare.net, onto my server, and it will run perfectly fine. Now, if your server is on your router, I would suggest you using your local IP, as it's less laggy, as it's going straight through the router instead of going out into the internet and coming back and finding itself. It's just a lot faster, and it's less lag, and it's better for you. So you won't lag while your friends are like, oh my god, there's too much lag. Yeah. Anyways, that's the point. So that's a domain name. Again, I wouldn't suggest you getting one unless you host majorly and you want to be cool, But that's the end of my video, so thanks for watching my video on how to make a Minecraft server. If you have any questions, comments, or just questions, yeah, you can leave a comment or shoot me a message, an email, anything, on how to, like, just give me what your question is, and I'll help you as best as I can. Thanks for watching my video here. Please rate, subscribe, and have a nice day.